Okay, so built on a landfill site, that must present some issues.
Yeah.
Generally, you can't do too much. You just can plonk too much on top of a landfill site. Talk us through some of the things you're having to do to alleviate that and make it usable as a golf course.
So what certainly what we found is that the regulations are a bit different there as compared to working on landfill sites, particularly in the U.S. and some other locations. So usually what ends up happening is that you don't really have an opportunity to plant trees on a landfill, whereas here they actually have trees, and some of which are protected, either because of the species of trees that they are, or because of the benefit for certain types of birds. And then so we're actually required to go back in and reforest much of the site, after we're done working. Because it was an older landfill, of course, we have to go in and create all the level spots, to build golf. And so that's not easy to do either. And so we actually are importing quite a bit of fill from construction projects all around Hong Kong. So what ends up happening is that as they build infrastructure and basements, and of course if you're building a big skyscraper, you're digging down quite a bit to create those pilings, and of course there they have to make it typhoon proof and hurricane proof and I should say earthquake proof, and so all of that material is being hauled into our site. So, and as they're building, they're having to relocate infrastructure from the landfill, of course, because it produces methane and there's wells that have to capture the water before it goes off into the harbor. So it's not your average golf course project where you're just out creating and shaping green tees and bunkers. So the actual creation of the infrastructure and relocation of what's out there is a huge part of what we're having to do. So it's an incredibly intense project. There are literally dozens of different consultants and different types of engineers that are working on it. And of course, we've been at it for a few years. So it's probably the most complex project in terms of getting it off the ground and under construction that we've ever worked on.
And does that mean there's just a hugely greater amount of constraint to your design for a regular project or even a landfill project in the US as well? Or is the sort of creativity of the golf design able to, thrive as much as it would?
Yeah, a big part of it, Toby, was just creating enough, playable space because it's not a very big site by any stretch of the imagination. And of course, they've got quite a large clubhouse and pools and rackets and other types of things that are happening on the site as well. But to it be frankly a very walkable golf course, which is nice. So it's compact in terms of that side of things. But to create just enough, level spots, to be able to play golf is the biggest challenge. So creating the layout and the routing of the golf course was a big task. Beyond that, though, I mean, we were charged with having something which is, again, very unusual for landfills. So quite honestly, they wanted to have streams and recirculated creeks and waterfalls and which is you would never ever think about doing something like that. Especially in North America, that just would be a huge no for regulations. But here we were able to do it. So it's quite interesting in that regard. We've used that as part of the stormwater control system too. So, for example, a lot of our irrigation water is actually what we capture during the typhoon and the rainy season. So we have a big perimeter drain at the base of the site. So before it actually goes off into the harbor, we capture that water. Then, of course, we can filter it. So we're doing benefit, by not contaminating or harming the harbor at all. But then all of that water gets captured and then put into big cisterns, so big tanks, if you will. And that's what we use for irrigation. A lot of really creativity in making it functional, to start with, but also too is to create some really interesting shot values and beauty and the landscape component to it, which again we had a lot of freedom, which we normally don't get on a landfill site.